We now come to the last three decans associated with the wands, and they are in the sign of Sagittarius. Before we do that, we'll just do a quick recap on the previous decans. So for the decans of Aries, the 2, 3 and 4 of wands, the energy of these cards was very favourable because the planet sign relationships were all very complementary. In the 5, 6 and 7 of wands, it got less favourable because we had Leo paired with Sagittarius. In the 5 of wands, Leo is very expressive and outgoing, Sagittarius is very restricting. In the 6 of wands, we had Leo paired with Jupiter, and that proved very favourable, as well as its position on the tree of life right in the centre. Jupiter is very expanding, very growth orientated, and it suits the expressive nature of Leo. In the 7 of wands, we had these skewed glyphs here of Mars in Leo. You'd think that was a relatively positive relationship, but factors which got in the way of that was the fact that the Sephiroth, which rules the 7 of wands, which was Netzach, is ruled by Venus, and Venus threw a much more impractical mix of energies into the mix. Again, it's positioned not that favourably on the tree of life. So now we come to the next 3 and the last 3 of the minor arcana, and that is Swiftness, which is Mercury in Sagittarius, Strength, which is the moon here in Sagittarius, and Oppression, which is again Saturn in Sagittarius. Note with these glyphs, although they're not skewed, they are contained within these very dominant looking wands here. So we will start with Swiftness, the 8 of wands. So in looking at the 8 of wands, we must first perhaps introduce Sagittarius, as it is a new zodiac sign. It's represented by the archer, and is half man, half horse, and symbolic of the aspiration of the soul, which is the human bit of the lower nature, to find God. There's a very, very good YouTube video by B.O.T.A on his Hidden Meanings website, and I'll put a link to that in the description box to this video. But it's very well worthwhile having a look at the true sort of meaning of the sign of Sagittarius. Very quickly, the qualities of Sagittarius include travel, adventure, search for a purpose in life, philosophical or spiritual endeavour, and Sagittarians are naturally outgoing and optimistic. On the decan wheel, say we've done our Aries, we've done Leo, and now we move into the 3 decans of Sagittarius, where we have Mercury ruling the 0 to 10 degrees on first decan within that sign. Mercury itself is associated with the winged messenger, and here we see him here, and he relays messages between man and the gods. And Mercury also rules the magician. We see again these sort of winged feet here, and the magician is all about transcending the limits of the mundane and an aspiration to a higher purpose. The magician is one of the first cards, or it is the first card that the fool meets, and so is like the initiation of the spiritual journey. So it's a very important card. In terms of the meaning of Swiftness in relation to the above, we can say it represents a period of rapid and clear communication. I love this card, and I'll talk about it more in detail in the tutorial, but again, you've got this outpouring of energy at the corners of this geometric shape here, with this rainbow of colours on the top of the card. So very positive looking card. associated with the removal of stagnant energies from our past, healing old wounds, releasing hurt, and implies that obstacles that have been there are getting swept out of the way. The often missed interpretation of this card, it can represent spiritual inspiration or insight, like a bolt out of the blue, major realizations in relation to your higher purpose, communication between your spirit and soul. Note that in the Rider-Waite Minor Arcana, this is the only card without any humans in. We just see the wands. We're not sure which direction they are travelling, but it does represent this very rapid energy that moves, and the, as I say, the higher purpose of this, especially being in the wands suit, is all to do with spiritual communication. So to finish off Swiftness, we just need to look at its position on the Tree of Life, and it is associated with Hod, the 8th Sephiroth here. And Hod is associated with the word splendour and glory, but in practical terms it's associated with ideas, communication and travel, scientific experiments and higher mind, discovering things, the aspiration to seek knowledge, scientific experiments. So it's all about growth and learning. It is in fact ruled by Mercury, so we get like a double dose of Mercury in this card, hence the idea of rapidity and swiftness. That does have its negative side as well, and I talk about that in the specific tutorial on this card. Okay, we will now move on to the 9 of Wands, which is Strength. The next card is the 9 of Wands, which is entitled Strength, and it is associated with the second deccan from 11 to 20 degrees in Sagittarius, and the planetary association is the moon. So we have the moon in Sagittarius, but we have some influence, secondary influence of the sun here as well. As you can see, this is a much darker card than the previous card, which was Swiftness. Swiftness was all about rapid communication, whether it be of a divine nature or something which is happening just on a more mundane level. But here we have the moon in Sagittarius. The moon is a lot more reflective, and it's of a very different nature to Sagittarius, although it's not antagonistic. Sagittarius is essentially an explorer, an adventurer, the archer, and the bow with the flight of the arrow. It's all pointing to flight and communication. The moon, however, represents an element of reflection. So this is tied in with the fact that the experiences of the 8 of Wands, the previous card, are not always going to take you to the rainbow here, or at least straight away. Some of the experiences that you have associated with going out into the world and having communication with people and different places is that you will have difficult times, and you'll have things that get lodged in your subconscious, which is what this card represents. So the dark nature of this card implies that we have to reach deep within ourselves and release that which perhaps has been left unresolved. The moon also represents illusion, so we might be held back due to things which have hold over us and they don't necessarily need to. We'll have a quick look at the moon card. Here is the moon with lots of symbolism here. Again, you've got the sun within the solar disk here within the moon card, but again you've got the very sort of dark nature of the card. Lots of symbology in this particular card, as most of the Thoth mages have, and I'll go through that in the tutorial on this particular trump. One thing to note, this card is called Strength, or the Lord of Strength, as a Golden Dawn actually puts it. So this is some sort of assurance that we have what it takes to reach within ourselves and release perhaps this quite restrictive energy here. And that's why you have the Sun in the card here. You've got this Sun here to drag the and bring to light the subconscious sometimes stagnant energies that the Moon is holding on to. Here is the position of the Nine of Wands on the Tree of Life, associated with Yesod here, which does occupy a position on the fortunate middle pillar because it has a direct communication with the source here. So again, this is all about balancing this particular card. It's not just the sunny times that the Sun card and the Eight of Wands can give. It's also balancing that with reaching deep within ourselves and forcing us to be more reflective in nature. As meditation is very much a very still thing. Meditation starts when the mind stops. So this again is a very meditative card. It's encouraging us to take time out and have that patience to reflect before moving forward. So I think that's about it for the Nine of Wands. We'll move on to the last card, which is the Ten of Wands and Oppression. This is the last card in the suit of Wands, and it is termed Oppression. It occupies the third decan of Sagittarius between 21 degrees and 30 degrees. The planet sign combination is, once again, we have Saturn in Sagittarius. Now, we've come across Saturn previously within the Wands, and that was found in the Five of Wands, where we had Saturn paired with Leo, and that's the first time we had some discord in the suit of Wands. This time we have it in the Ten of Wands paired with Sagittarius, which is an even more friction type of a relationship. In this particular card we have these Doges again, and we initially saw these in the Two of Wands, whereby the energy of Mars directed that energy to a useful purpose. Here we've got Oppression, where these two Doges again are repressing the energy in the background of this card, so we have a different relationship here. So Saturn and Sagittarius are quite a mismatch. We've got Saturn here with its rings implying limitation, and Saturn arriving in Sagittarius is like brings the weight of the world with him. It's tempering the dreams of and aspirations associated with the Archer here, and it's tempering that with a big dose of limitation and sort of reality, or at least mundane reality, and responsibility as well. So with Sagittarius, it wants to be free, you know, like the arrow, wants to fly with the arrow, it wants to explore, it wants to be footloose and fancy free, but Saturn is having none of that, and that's why this card is called Oppression, and that is why we have the restriction of Sagittarius in the bars of Saturn. It's almost like a prison bars, these Tibetan wands. So with that in mind, some of the divinatory meanings that go with this card are things like our dreams and aspirations becoming blocked, and it seems there is little chance of them being fulfilled. So the 10 of Wands is associated with the last Sephiroth here, which is Malkut. Malkut is the earthly realm. It's at the bottom of the Tree of Life. Indicating the earthly realms, it implies that these dreams and ambitions that we've got through the energy of Sagittarius, they may need some grounding, and so in practical terms they may need more work to do to actually get them into manifestation. So it may just be that we're just looking at seeing just how much work is involved in fulfilling our dreams. It may not just happen at once. We may need patience. We may feel as if, you know, we can't get it off the ground, but it really needs us to again, maybe perhaps get the fresh energy of the ace back to inspire us to move out of this particular situation. And indeed the next and final diagram will illustrate that particular point. So when we talked about this tree of life here with regards to the wands, there are in fact 4 trees of lives associated with the 4 suits. This was the Ace of Wands here in B.O.T.A. We've moved down in the lightning flash all the way down this tree of life here in Malkut, and the next one here, that refreshing, is in B.O.T.A. of the next suit, which is the Cups in Briar. And indeed that's another reason for the instability of the tens. It's because it's this energy here which is unstable, because it wants to move down to the next level on the tree. So it's like the end of the suit. It's like the spent energy of the suit, and it just wants to move on from here, from this the most earthly bit, and cascade down the tree of life. So it's like that transition sort of Sephiroth, really. Okay, so that's it for the Deckhands associated with the wands. I hope you've enjoyed it. Sorry my voice has not been great in these past videos. I've had some sort of a cold. So okay, we'll move on to the tutorials of the individual cards themselves, and the 2 of Wands will be next.